Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. A while back I posted a video regarding a few possible ideas for a siege rework for Total War Warhammer 3. And I stated that a great way to see the implementation of such a rework would be to give each of the races and factions their own mechanics and quality of life changes. This was a series that I intended to start a while back, but required a bit more research, so we're starting it today, and we're starting with Bretonnia. Bretonnia is one of those oddities, not only in Total War Warhammer, but Warhammer Fantasy in general. In lore, Bretonnians are presented to be some of the most skilled fighters in the world, either on horse or on foot, with some of them even being experts in siege warfare. In Total War Warhammer, however, much like the tabletop, the Bretonnians lack in, well, almost everything, especially when it comes to sieges. Like I said before, we're all very much expecting a siege rework in Warhammer 3, and it's long been discussed on the channel, but before that was mainly focused around generic changes. So let's deep dive onto Bretonnia and see what possible features they themselves could have to make siege combat a little more bearable. Let's divide this onto two sections. First we'll look at stuff defensively. And let's start off strong here with something we very much expect. Trebuchets should be able to be mounted upon walls. This would make them a tad more useful in siege combat. Even though the unit is generally not needed defensively, but still somehow ended up in our garrisons anyway, they may as well have some vantage point to be able to do some damage. Better yet, replace the trebuchets with literally anything else. But if we're going to be stuck with them defensively, at least give us a reason to use them, especially as they are so inaccurate as they are. This is a siege weapon which is mostly designed to hit stationary targets such as towers and walls, but instead if they're trying to hit enemy units which are moving constantly and often very quickly, trebuchets would be near useless unless they have a good vantage point. Moving on to our second point, and this one is rather needed, which is allow knights to dismount. It's not really that needed in normal battles, but it is needed in sieges. A large portion of the units in the Bretonnian roster are mounted, even more so those with the best stats melee-wise. Now yes, the current meta of the game is of course ranged and magic. I am not disputing that, but it's still a tad strange that Knights of Bretonnia would not dismount from their horses to go on battlements, especially as those who are familiar with the lore of Bretonnia know that they are able to do so and have done so many times in various books. There was a mod that allowed this a while ago, where the knights would be able to dismount, which unfortunately hasn't worked in a while. But it made defensive sieges that more bearable, as of course the Bretonnian cities are so tightly packed that you wouldn't really be able to do much in terms of charges with large or ultra-sized unit horse riders. The mod itself had its flaws, specifically that you could toggle and untoggle the mounted option, which would unfortunately allow the unit to automatically generate as if it had taken no damage whatsoever. But there is a simple workaround to this, which would be allowing you to choose your mounted or dismounted option only when you're in deployment. Here you could choose mounted or dismounted as many times as you wished, but as soon as the battle begins, that option will now be locked, literally in the same way as when you use a consumable with a character. It's simple and I'm assuming easy enough to implement. It's just something that it's very needed in my opinion, as even when you're just defending the inner capture point, you just really want foot soldiers to be in the front line, while your archers and your spellcasters do damage from afar. Your horses wouldn't really be a good fit here, as obviously then spearmen would have the advantage over you. The next point is in reference to the Green Knight and how he should have a chance to appear in all defensive battles. Lore-wise, the Green Knight is known to come to the aid of the Bretonnians at their hour of most need. This is something that has been heavily embedded in Bretonnian lore, so it should be represented as such, at least in my opinion, in Total War Warhammer, as its current implementation isn't really too great. A possible way this could work is a trigger centered around the balance of power. If it gets to a certain point on the favor of your enemy's side, then there could be a slight chance that the Green Knight will ride to your aid. Let's be honest here, the Green Knight itself isn't really a very strong character, but the chance of the Green Knight arriving and doing a bit of extra damage could tip the balance of power into your favor. It doesn't have to be very drastic, maybe a 1 in 10 chance or so. I'd prefer if something like this was only available defensively, as of course, it just makes more sense. If you've engaged into battle out of your own choice and you're starting to lose, well, it should be that it's kinda your fault. But if you're losing a defensive fight, it makes sense for the Green Knight to appear and try to aid you. Other than all this, well, then there's just a few generic things. Basic deployables which were featured in the tabletop back in the day. Nothing too drastic, but a little extra flavor like burning oil on walls and so on. It's stuff that would be very situational, but the ability to use them would be kinda cool. Not every faction should have access to these defensive deployables, as some races already have their own variant, but it does make sense for Bretonnia, which is very much based on a medieval European faction. Its history meets fantasy in a certain sense. It could be implemented via a new window. As soon as you're under siege by the enemy, well, then you would have a few turns to build up some defensive deployables, in a very similar sense as to how they have a few turns to build up battering rams and siege towers. It could even be implemented as a overlapping window over your buildings, as you will have no access to them and not be able to construct any new buildings. Lastly, magical towers were available to some factions in the tabletop via the Blood in the Badlands Siege expansion. This would allow you to upgrade a defensive tower to be able to cast spells in a specific lore of magic. Bretonnia currently only has access to 3 laws of magic: Beast, Heavens, and Life. The magical tower would likely have access to spells as bound spells with a number of uses, and it would be best if it were just 1 or 2 spells instead of the complete roster. This could be easy enough to implement for all factions all around, say for example in a very similar sense to that of Three Kingdoms. If you've played that Total War game before, you'll know that some buildings are able to have multiple different options. So as soon as you build it, you would then have the choice of being able to pick 1 or 2 options. For Bretonnia it's simple enough with 3 basic options. The only problem here is that of course that would probably take up a building slot, or could be somehow integrated with the basic garrison buildings, seeing as walls themselves are not tied to a basic garrison building but rather the settlement building itself. Now that's everything I can think of defensively, and offensively I think that the Bretonnians are probably one of the best when it comes to offense. Decent archers with ammo variants, strong trebuchets which can knock down walls and towers quite easily, and of course magic. I don't think that the Bretonnians really need much, though if sieges do get reworked, it's likely that we might see some form of battle rework too. I might be overthinking it here, but it would be nice to see a smarter AI that might even sally forth, as we've seen in other Total War titles, so perhaps maybe the ability to put down the Bretonnian stakes would be great, as of course that is something that was very much in the lore and in the tabletop too. Though if you guys have any other ideas, let me know what you think and we can discuss it a little bit more. Now, in regards to this series, the Bretonnian one was the easiest one to write, as it's all pretty much concrete as to what is actually needed. The reason why I'm separating this between different races is because some of them will be drastically different in terms of ideas. Hopefully we can get something along these lines for Bretonnia, though if not, I'm sure some modder could be able to do it. But what you guys think about the series idea, let me know your thoughts in the comments below and let's start a bit of a discussion. But with that my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel has been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.